Great. Good, how are you?
So good to see you.
We're live? Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It is such an honor to have you, and thank you to all the amazing friends and community leaders we have gathered here who represent all the voices of Denverites who want to be able to afford to live in this city that they love. I want to just say a couple of opening comments, and I'll pass on to our team that is here. Today in Denver, what we know is that tonight there is a teacher with 2 kids who lives in this city and every night worries about her ability to pay the rent. Worries that next month the rent might go up. She already knows she's paying more rent than she can afford right now. She knows there are things she can't pay for, like summer camp, or like a trip home to see the grandparents, or like medical bills or the rest, because she's doing everything she can to just stay in a unit that she's afraid she's gonna lose. We know that today in Denver there is a senior citizen who moved here from across the country to be closer to her grandkids, who helps her daughter make ends meet by providing childcare during the day, was a teacher herself, now lives on a fixed income and is retired, and is worried every single month that that rent is going to go up, that she won't be able to stay in this city. She won't be able to be close to her grandkids or help out in the ways that she does, and that is the loss of her dream. Today in Denver, we have families who just finished celebrating watching their daughter graduate from college. After growing up and living her entire life in the city and county of Denver, she's now graduated, she is looking for a job, and they can't wait to see what she is going to do with her life. And they know deep in their heart, they're terrified that even if she gets that job that she wants, she probably won't be able to afford to rent in this city, and certainly could never pursue the dream of owning a home like they owned in this city for the last 40 years. That is the truth we face today in Denver. And what we know is if we do nothing, 10 years from now, all of those Denverites will be gone. They will have been pushed out or priced out or moved out to someplace else. And that is a future we refuse to accept. And so we are gathered here today to say that we believe it is possible to build a Denver where everyone that works in this city can afford to live in this city. We think cities have gone 2 ways on this. There are cities that have struggled to deliver economic growth, and as a result, they have no availability of jobs, and people can't find reasons to stay in those cities, and there's lots of available units, but no people with the incomes of the jobs to fill them. The other path are cities that have gone on great stretches of economic growth, but as those cities have grown economically, they have failed to stay affordable. And the result is that the people that run that city can't live in that city. The result is you have to live 45 minutes or an hour away, and you have to commute back and forth to get to your job. It means worse impact on traffic, it means worse impact on climate, it means worse impact on the quality of life of those very residents. One of the great things about the West is we never believed you had to live by the old rules. The old rules say you can't both drive economic growth in a city and maintain affordability. We refuse to believe that. We believe Denver can be the fastest growing economic engine in the West, and it can be the place where you can still afford to live in the city that you serve as a retail worker or as a restaurant worker or as a janitor or as a teacher or a nurse or a firefighter or a senior citizen. And today is about us launching a path to try to make Denver that city. So we are delighted today to announce an effort to deliver an affordable Denver. That is, how do we put ourselves on the path to close the total number of affordable units this city needs to serve its residents? Tonight, a full 40% of the people who live in this city cannot afford to live in this city tonight. Nearly 40% of us. We need to deliver a path for the number of units that can keep those folks in Denver. Affordable Denver will be a ballot measure that we are proud to introduce today with our council partners and sponsors who are here to talk about that work. This will be a 0.5% addition to the sales tax. Will mean about 5 cents on every $10 purchase for a Denverite or a visitor to Denver. But the result will be it will put us on a path to close all 44,000 affordable housing units we need to deliver over the next 10 years. Thank you. We are doing this today, and we are doing this now because Denver can't afford to wait. We know every year that we wait, land gets more expensive, Materials get more expensive, housing gets more expensive. If we wait another 2 or 4 or 6 years, that's another thousands of Denver residents who will move out, stay out, or not ever come home. That's why we're excited to bring together a broad coalition today to take on what we think could be an historic opportunity to make this city that we love a place where we can all still afford to live. I'm delighted to introduce our partners, some of our many partners on this effort. First, I want to introduce Dr. Jamie Reif, who's the head of HOST, who's helping lead this effort for us. We have 4 council members who are our key sponsors here to speak, and then we'll let my friend Ismael Guerrero, who's the head of Mercy Housing, close out for us. But I want to thank you all so much for being here, and delighted to turn over to Jamie to talk a little bit about the details of the program. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. As you shared, affordable housing is one of the biggest issues in our city. Over the past 20 years, wages have risen 110%, but our cost of housing has risen 220%. Federal investments have not kept up with what we need, particularly in high-cost cities like Denver. That means that Denver has to take action. It's critical for us to expand our local dedicated funds to meet the crisis that we are now facing. We can't wait any longer. The Affordable Denver Fund will allow us to double down on the strategies that we know are working and expand the tools in our toolkit to meet the entire need of affordable housing and put us on a path to close the gap. I want to take a minute to talk a little bit about the different strategies that we will be using. For those exiting homelessness, we'll be able to increase the number of vouchers that we have here locally in the city. We'll be able to increase the amount of rental subsidies and maximize our ability to create permanent supportive housing. For our low and middle income earners, which the mayor talked about, the teachers, the firefighters, the nurses, our aging adults who are living on a fixed income, we are going to have several existing strategies that are expanded. We are also creating new ones. We will be able to create more affordable units by increasing our amount of gap financing for those projects that already have federal and state support. We'll be able to preserve more existing affordable units in our market. We'll also be able to acquire and convert rental units to affordable ones. We'll also be able to create and expand more ADUs across the city. The other thing that we'll be doing is adding new tools to our toolkit. We will increase production by creating new public finance and investment tools. These include things like a revolving construction loan fund, as well as public equity in affordable housing. These public investments will replace the need for developers to access high-cost capital. In exchange for these public investments, they will agree to create more affordable units at deeper affordability. Lastly, home ownership is still out of reach for so many Denverites. With Affordable Denver, we'll be able to expand our ability to provide down payment assistance, preserve affordable homes, and increase tools such as land trusts. Not only does this fund increase our city's investment in housing, it gives us the flexibility that we need to be able to change in the market conditions. This is key to tackling this challenge ahead of us. I want to thank the mayor for his vision. I want to thank all of our council members for their support on this, and for all of us here today helping champion this issue. We appreciate you being with us. It will really take all of us to create this affordable, inclusive Denver. And with that, I want to hand it over to Council President Pro Tem Sandoval.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you to talk about this amazing opportunity. During my time on Denver City Council, affordable housing has been key and a key topic for me and addressing it in Northwest Denver. When I grew up, my family was able to afford to live there. I am able to afford to live there, and now my 2 children are no longer able to afford to live in Northwest Denver, where they were born and raised. I have worked on numerous policies to address the housing crisis Denver currently is in. I created the model to rezone entire neighborhoods to allow accessory dwelling unit zoning. Since taking office in 2019, I have rezoned 96% of Council District 1 to allow ADUs. When the Affordable Housing Measure Fund passes, it will help with the construction of accessory dwelling units, which addresses the missing middle. We need different type of housing stock to address the crisis. In June of 2022, Councilwoman Kanich and I were the main council sponsors for the Expanding Housing Affordability Policy. This policy recognizes that Denver's growth has not benefited everyone and provides 3 interrelated market-based tools for new development to better address housing needs to low to moderate income households. It created mandatory inclusionary housing, it had incentives for developers in certain areas of town, and it had a linkage fee to grow our fund for affordable housing. The passage of the EHA, Expanding Housing Affordability Policy, was just another tool we were able to add to the numerous tools to address the affordable housing crisis in Denver. However, the work is not done, which is why we are here today. And I am proud to be a council sponsor to get this important fund to pass. On May 26th of this year, City Council wrote a letter to Mayor Johnston and his appointees stating that one of Council's budget priority goals for the budget of 2025 is to ensure the people of Denver are housed by improving housing pipeline and ensuring the diversity of stability of housing stock. This proposed affordable housing measure will help us meet that goal for Denverites. Sorry, I'm stuck on a mic. Thank you. So, as we move forward, this measure will be referred to the vote of the people. Here's the timeline for people who are interested in participating. This afternoon, July 8th, the mayor and his administration will present to City Council budget and policy at 1:30, and it will be a large overview. Tomorrow, at the mayor council meeting, another presentation will be given. Wednesday, July 17th, at the Safety and Education Committee meeting, there'll be a overview and public comment. July 29th would be introduction at full City Council. And if we get the votes, which I'm sure we will, with my help of my colleagues here, it'd be on final passage on August 5th. We look forward to your participation in this important measure for the residents of Denver and for the next 7 generations of Denverites. Oftentimes when I talk about the work I do, I talk about the 7 generations that got me here. To be able to be a Latina who's born and raised in the neighborhood that I represent. And we still have to continue to do the work for the next 7 generations, my kids, their grandkids, and the future generations of Denver. So I ask that you support this initiative and stand with myself and my other colleagues as we refer this to the residents of Denver and work hard to get this passed. And with that, I have the honor of introducing my colleague, Councilwoman Lewis.
I'll move this mic over so I don't get stuck on it. Good afternoon. Our growing city has known our fair share of pains, trials, and tribulations as our population grows. As children raised here leave their families' homes in search of their own, and as professionals find themselves suddenly priced out of places they've lived in for a lifetime. In my office, my staff and I face questions daily about the fear of losing homes because of ballooning costs, fears of not being able to find a new home after facing eviction due to wages remaining stagnant while rents rise, and for folks facing the reality that they can no longer afford to live in the neighborhood where their grandparents were raised, not through any fault of their own, but simply because the dollars in their pockets no longer carry the same value they did a generation ago. I know from my own life that Denverites shouldn't have to choose between growth and affordability, between increasing access to resources like playgrounds and pools while fearing displacement. That there is more that the city can do to remember who laid the foundation upon which our city, the Queen City of the Plains, is becoming a globally recognized leader in culture, art, and civic engagement. We can demonstrate to the country at large that we can be a growing, vibrant city that is still affordable to workers. The laborers, the teachers, the nurses, the firefighters, our gardeners and janitors, the working class backbone who uplift the city every single day. We hear of the missing middle in the real estate, but I would suggest instead that we've disenfranchised and underserved too many for them to be missing. They're seen but simply ignored. If you allow me, I'd like to reflect on my own life. Raised in 5 Points, I dreamed of raising my family on the same streets I walked as a child myself. The familiar turns to my public library and recreation centers would become the roots imprinted in the memories of my own sons, our shared history bonding us together through our collective community. Unfortunately, rapid displacement with no attention paid to existing residents quickly priced me out of many places to live in my own neighborhood. When tragedy struck close to home, when my son's father never came home from a car accident, took him too soon from this earth, the real panic around instability set in. I had one job, one I was proud to show up at and perform each and every day. Only a generation before would have met our needs. But suddenly, bills began to pile up. My bus pass seemed suddenly too expensive to afford each month. And I questioned whether I'd be able to get my baby to school and myself to work each day. And owning my own home became a fantasy instead of the next step in the American dream. I stayed with family for a while, struggling with no permanent address of my own, seeing myself becoming another statistic on a page as I faced homelessness, knowing my son deserved the stability of his own room to return to each night. In desperation, there were moments where hard choices were made, and yes, even a few stumbles, but I persevered. I accepted help when it was offered and found assistance in government and community programs which could lift the both of us up and put us back on a steady track. Housing, walls, and warmth is central to the needs of every human being, and today I'm happy to see our city, one I've been elected to help lead, on the track to combat the rapid, uncaring growth we've seen leading to displacement. Increase in homelessness and overall dread in the future for so many young people. Instead, we are embracing the opportunity to help and to truly help. When people can afford to live in the city they work, we attract more jobs, more investment, and better opportunities. When passed, the Affordable Housing Fund will complement the city's Affordable Housing Fund, which generates $30 million annually towards a much broader range of activities, including development, rental assistance, eviction, legal defense, home ownership, and foreclosure assistance, and other services. Services like city-owned and city-operated housing models like multi-generational housing in Denver. This housing model is a potential solution I've discussed since I took office, actually before I took office, to address the housing crisis that we would also have substantial benefits with regard to mitigating and adapting to climate change. This is a benefit this is a model that creates public housing that is mixed income, the rents of which can be used to fund the construction of further projects. This year, City Council submitted a budget priority to study the impacts of city-owned housing models and the impact that will have on easing displacement, encouraging responsible community-driven growth in our city. Housing which everyone can afford, without concentrating poverty in certain parts of our city, needs to continue to be a priority in our town. I'm excited about the new opportunity, the Affordable Housing Fund, and the broad network of collaborative stakeholders we've assembled around using our imaginations and being open to bold new plans will bring more to the Mile High. Thank you, and I now like to welcome Councilman Darrell Watson.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I got to tell you, it feels like the old saying that it takes a village. And as you look at each of the individuals on this staircase going up, all the work of your hands, the years and many, many years of your fighting to make sure that Denver is not only affordable, but it's a place that our families can live in. I want to thank you, even before I begin my speech and my talk, so give these folks a round of applause for the work that they have done for generations. My name is Darrell Watson, and I am honored to serve all of the residents of the fine District 9. I want to start first with an anecdote, a story about my life as to why affordable housing matters. As the youngest of 7 kids raised in the projects, I watched my mother on a daily basis negotiate between whether she was going to pay rent, whether she was going to pay the light bill, or she was going to buy food. and she became an expert negotiator, asking one utility if I can pay you on the 15th so that I can buy food on the 1st, and asking the other one if we can pay you just 6 weeks later so I can make sure we stay in that home. My mom had to have a PhD in stability to ensure that our family can live, learn, and excel in the places that we chose. That is an opportunity for this city to make sure that no other mom in the city and county of Denver has to have a PhD in stability. All of the good folks standing behind us, the amazing mayor that we have, and my colleagues here to my right, it is our opportunity to ensure that we put forward legislation that ensures that our families, working families, can live, work, and recreate in the places that they love. Affordable Denver Fund will do just that. It will add to the existing affordable housing fund within the city and county of Denver that Dr. Jamie Reif and her amazing team at the Department of Housing Stability manages. It will ensure that the funds are there even as the federal government pulls back subsidies, even as the state, with putting forward requirements on housing, does not accompany those with funding. We as a city and county of Denver, we need to ensure that our people who live here can work here and can recreate here. And the Affordable Denver Fund will do just that. Why? Thank you. We are focused on speed tracking this process through council for one reason. We've talked far too long, too many sessions on why affordability matters. Now is the time for action. This ballot initiative is the tool that we can use to meet that goal, to meet that struggle, and to meet the housing crisis facing each and every one of our families. I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank my amazing colleagues to my right for co-sponsoring this. I would like to thank the Department of Housing Stability. It was my honor to be the first chair of the Denver Housing Stability Strategic Advisors Board, really creating community-informed process to make sure the voices of community is within the legislation and within the work that we're doing in the Department of Housing Stability. I know he's hot, y'all, so I'm not going to keep talking too long. I just want to say it is my honor to fight with you and to stand with you to make sure that this not only passes City Council, but that this passes through the voters of Denver City and County. Thank you so much for your work, and it is my honor to introduce my good friend, Councilwoman Sarah Parody.
All right, everybody. Listening to my colleagues and the mayor, they've really said it all. So the last thing that I think I want to point to is when half the people in our city are struggling paycheck to paycheck, unable to cover their housing for the month, trying to really stretch a food budget, think of the impoverishing impact that that has on our communities, on our civic life, and on our democracy. It is hard to think about running for city council when you're, doing the math every month, trying to figure out how to make ends meet. It is hard to participate in your kid's school if you're working 2 jobs. So the impacts on all of us are incredibly real, whether you are part of the half of our city that is within that struggle right now, or whether you are lucky enough to own your home or be able to afford your rent. I hope you will vote yes in the fall, because this is what you all elected us to do, and we're up here doing it. Thank you.
Right. Good morning, everybody. It's good to be here with you today. Thank you, Mayor Johnson, and the City Council members for your leadership on this important and critical issue. Thank you all for joining us here today, whether you are here as a supporter, and it's great to see so many familiar faces here behind me who are supporting it, or you're here because you're interested in learning more. Being here today means that you care about the affordable housing crisis that we are dealing with here in Denver and across the country. I'm Ismael Guerrero, the president and CEO of Mercy Housing. We're one of the largest nonprofit affordable housing developer, owner, managers in the country, and proud to call Denver our national headquarters. In my 25 years here in Denver, including over a decade leading the Denver Housing Authority, and it's great to see Joaquin Cintron Vega and the DHA team here. And then for the last 4 years, heading up Mercy Housing. The lack of affordable housing has never impacted so many people as it does today, from those who are unhoused to those who want to be homeowners. At Mercy Housing, we see it in the growing number of seniors and families looking for an affordable apartment to rent. When we open the doors at a new community like the Rose on Colfax, The units leased up quickly, and the waiting list grows daily. I'm here today supporting this initiative because it's critical to the mission of Mercy Housing, to provide healthy, quality, affordable housing opportunities in vibrant communities for seniors, for families, and those who have experienced homelessness. I grew up in a lower-income, working-class immigrant neighborhood in Chicago. I was one of the lucky ones. I learned what it means to have a safe and secure place to call home. And I learned the power of home to create stability and opportunities for family and opportunities for a brighter future. Our country needs to fund affordable housing at a scale that matches the crisis. We need to reform and expand federal and state tax credits and increase our commitment to housing programs across the board. But sadly, we cannot rely solely on federal and state funding. Having meaningful, committed, and flexible local funding for housing in Denver is just as important. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to support the Affordable Denver Funding Initiative. I believe that the goal of $100 million annually added to the federal, state, and local funding puts us on a path to solving the challenges here in Denver. By committing resources to both preservation of existing affordable units and development of new housing opportunities, this initiative addresses that critical gap between housing supply and housing demand. This new fund will support organizations like Mercy Housing and many others who are here today, and with our goal of creating healthy housing and mixed-income communities across different neighborhoods in Denver. It will allow us to create new communities that serve families, including those who experience homelessness, like we are doing at 9th and Navajo in partnership with DHA and the Denver Indian Health and Family Services, or as we did at the Rose on Colfax in partnership with Mile High Early Learning. These now are vibrant communities that offer opportunities where everyone can thrive. We commend Mayor Johnson and the sponsoring council members who are here today for their leadership in championing this initiative, which will have a profound and positive impact on the lives of Denver residents for generations to come. Thank you. With that, I'll let Mayor Johnson close it.
All right, I'm happy to take a few questions. I'm also happy to say the coat rule is relaxed. So if anyone wants to take off your coat, feel free to do that. I can hold it down here. And this is also sort of like the Oscars of housing. So you have the most significant visionaries, leaders, developers, thought partners in the country here. So I'm sure many of them will be available if you want to take questions afterwards. But I'm happy to answer some if there are questions. Yes.
Mayor, I'll start with you and anybody else who wants to answer afterwards. Denver is 8.81% sales tax. This would make it 9.31%. If Denver Health passes, that's 9.65%. At what sales tax rate would you personally stop buying goods in Denver and go to a different city to do that?
Yeah, we've looked at the impact on sales tax because that's important. A couple things that are important about that. One is about 35% or so of the sales tax in Denver is paid by non-Denver residents, as both visitors or other people that come to the city for economic growth. It also is what we know about the people living in Denver right now is the single biggest stack in their bills right now is housing. And so what we're talking about is potentially a $2 a week impact on families for the ability for a teacher or a nurse or a public servant to take up to $1,000 off their monthly rental charge. That is the way you make the math of this city function for the folks that are trying to work here and live here. And so this will not be the highest tax rate in the state. We think we're still very competitive with the region, and we know this is still an incredible attraction regionally and nationally for folks to come to in Denver. You may have seen about 2 weeks ago, the New York Times published a study of the 50 most desirable places to live for young people in America. Denver ranks number 2 on that list. The problem is not that folks don't want to live here. Overwhelmingly, folks do want to live here. They do want to play here. They do want to visit here. They also need to be able to afford to live here, and that's what we're trying to solve for.
And that explains why you think it's a good thing. What tax rate would you stop buying goods?
Well, my answer is to solve the question for the ones before us in November. This is not a rate at which I believe I would or anyone else will stop buying goods. The relative benefits of what the city offers compared to that cost is still minimal. And if you look at, obviously, what matters is the overall tax burden. How do you feather in sales tax, income tax, property tax? Denver's still among the 40 major cities in the country has among the lowest overall tax burdens. And so while we have, while this will be a sales tax, the overall tax burden of the city we think is still very manageable.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
With the show of people behind you, are you setting the stage for what you think might be a difficult way to pass this measure either through council or to the people? I mean, are you gearing up for a difficult fight to get this through?
I think quite the opposite. I think this coalition gathered behind us shows how deep the support is around this issue, how many folks are willing to come out on a hot Monday in the middle of their busy work week to say this issue matters. I've been fighting on this issue for decades, and it is time to make sure the city does, as Councilman Parity said, and as Councilman Lott said, what we were called here to do, which is to actually solve the biggest crisis facing the city. We know overwhelmingly Denver voters will say the single biggest problem facing the city is housing affordability across the spectrum of needs. And so that is our plan to respond to that. I think this is symbolic of the breadth and depth of the coalition that will be there to both help us support at council and to also help us get it across the finish line in November.
Well, just a follow-up. Are employers in this city and around the region partly to blame for this because of the wage stagnation? I mean, are they part of the equation too?
I think all of us are part of the equation. We're proud of the fact that we've helped increase minimum wage here in Denver to make sure people are paid a more and more livable wage. We know even at that wage, it is hard to keep up with the ability to afford to live here. What we hear from employers across the city is a similar story to the one I told before, which is they have help wanted signs, they have now hiring signs that they can't find applicants to fill because the cost of living in Denver is prohibitive to many of those entry-level jobs. And so we think employers are facing the same obstacles here. Without the ability to have more and more people who want to move to Denver and can stay and live in Denver, it's harder to fill the critical roles we need to make this city run. So we think they have a shared interest in making sure the city stays affordable, and we think we'll see that in the coalition we build for the ballot in November.
Burdening the people who are more lower income by increasing the sales tax with this proposal, because sales tax often seen as a regressive tax.
It's important to know a couple things. It's important to know what is exempted from the sales tax. So right now, obviously, food and groceries are not covered covered by the sales tax. Gas is not. Medical supplies, feminine hygiene products. There's a whole raft of items that are excluded from sales tax increases. As I said before, I think what we know is this population that is working families are the ones that are hardest hit by the housing crisis, and the ability to add $2 a week to their potential sales bill as a way to cut hundreds to thousands of dollars off of their monthly rent is a transformational change for them. I think Councilman Parity wants to jump in on this. Did you want to jump in?
I was going to say exactly what the mayor said, which is that the fact that we exempt basic necessities from sales tax is incredibly important to me in supporting sales tax as a measure to bring in deeply needed housing revenue.
Other questions?
Speak to the metrics of success. Like, what is this actually going to get in terms of units, people, household values?
Yes.
And also, what is the process for auditing success to make sure the money's being well spent?
Great, thank you, Kyle. Yes, thank you. Breeze provided by Denver. 300 days of sunshine and also occasional breeze. We are very focused on the outcomes we can deliver for Denver here. So the goal is that this allows us to build or to bring on 44,000 additional units, which is what the estimate is of the total gap we have to fill over the next 10 years. So that is the top level metric we'll be tracking, is those number of units. We'll also tracking the number of units available at different levels of income. So how much is available at 30% of area median income, at 60%, at 80%, up to 100%. And we are looking for how we can do that with partners, many of the partners here behind us, because the city can't do this all alone. We're going to need nonprofit development partners, for-profit development partners. We want to be a co-investor in partnerships to bring on this housing. The more partners we can bring and the more we can leverage our dollars with other dollars, the farther we'll get. And so this is not going to serve 100% of the need. It will partner with other developers here to make sure we get that number delivered. Any other questions?
Did I hear correctly, you're projecting $100 million in revenue a year from this?
That is our projection right now based on our current estimates from Department of Finance on this 0.5% increase.
You're looking at 44,000 units over 10 years. That's kind of the math. $100,000 or $100 million a year. That gets you to 44,000 additional units.
That's the math. We were on path right now to deliver around 20,000 units over the next 10 years. That's not enough, and so this helps us meet the marginal additional 25,000 units we would have to do to meet the total demand. And so we had built a path to try to get to about 3,000 units a year. That will not be enough to meet the demand now. This added revenue gets us to the 44,000 units over 10 years, which is closer to 5,000 units a year. Great. I think I'm going to return the favor of the incredible kindness of folks who showed up today by stopping to take any more questions before they overheat. But just to say a huge thank you, I want to echo what some of the council members said, which is for many, many years, the folks in this coalition have been building the partnerships, have been building housing, have started the innovation on other innovative strategies Denver has put in place to take the initial steps to put us in the moment where it is now within striking distance to say Denver could both be the best city where you want to move as a young person or a retiree, and it could be the first major city in America that has a real path to close the total number of units we need on the affordability gap to say, at whatever income you live in the city, we can make sure you can still afford to live in the city. And then what we want most of all is not to lose those families and those individuals that make this city most vibrant. If you end up with a hollowed out city where only the wealthy can afford to live and everyone else has to commute, you lose the very fabric that makes this city what we love. And so that's what we're here committed to deliver, and we're grateful for your partnership in delivering it with us. So thank you all so much for being here.